Thank you, Soul Notes Band, and good morning. My name is Wendy Craig-Purcell, and I am the minister here at the Unity Center in San Diego, California. I welcome you to our virtually broadcast celebration service today. You were just listening to the beautiful music of our Soul Notes Band, and in a few minutes you'll be blessed with music from Shana Pugh and Janet Hammer. So I want to invite you just to sit back and relax as we move into this shared time together, and we hope that once we are not sheltering in place any longer, that we'll be able to invite you into our beautiful sanctuary, and that we'll once again be able to be in community in person. We're going to start now with the striking and the playing of our antique Tibetan singing bowls. And we use these as a way to just help us become more present and to kind of mark the fact that wherever we are and whatever we were doing a moment ago, that we are choosing to spend this time together connecting with ourselves and connecting with spirit within and all around us. Namaste. Namaste. Let us join together in a moment of prayer. And so closing our eyes, we continue to move into this shared experience together, opening our minds and opening our hearts to this experience this morning, setting the intention that there will be something that we remember or something that we hear or an insight that we have that encourages us and helps us in our day-to-day life right where we are with whatever it is that we might be dealing with. And so we know that it is important for us to be fully present, to listen not only with our physical ears, but to listen with the ears of the heart, so to speak, to listen to and to listen for that deeper wisdom, knowing that the presence and the power of Spirit is always within us and always around us, ever present. And as we allow ourselves to be open, as we allow ourselves to be more willing and present and available, we will hear exactly what we need to hear. And we will be given the strength and the courage and the faith to move forward. And so we hold this to be true for ourselves. We hold this to be true for those we might be listening to this program with together, or to those around us, that this is so for us, and we declare this to be so for each other. And so it is. Amen and amen.
Just one world, so many lands, brothers and sisters, one loving hand. All paths can lead us to understand. There's just one world, one big plan, one world. It's up to you, one world. It's up to me too, one world. Just look what love can do, one world, one world. If by reaching out my smile could light up your face, by reaching back our hearts could embrace, if we could trust our fears be raised, creating a safe and peaceful place, one world. It's up to you, one world. It's up to me too, one world. Just look what love can do, one world, one world, one world. It's up to you, one world. It's up to me too, one world. Just look what love can do, one world, one world, one world.
Thank you, Janet and Sheena and Soul Notes Band. So this morning we're concluding a short series of messages that I have themed on the other side of the storm, dealing with any big change that we are experiencing in our lives. And my message title today is Recalibrating and Starting and Staying the Course. So I have some readings for us this morning to support this. The first comes from C.S. Lewis. There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. Far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. From Darren Hardy, direction is more important than speed. Direction is more important than speed. One from Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. I've always loved this one. Faith is taking the first step when you don't see the whole staircase. From Clarence Slaughter, we start by setting the course we succeed by staying the course. From Josh Shipp, perseverance is stubbornness with a purpose. And from Dale Carnegie, most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying when there seemed to be no hope at all. And this last one is from Nelson Mandela. I have walked the long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way. But I can only rest for a moment, for with freedom comes responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not ended. What an important idea for us to remember, especially at these times, that with freedom comes responsibilities. With freedom comes responsibilities. We're going to move into a time of shared meditation together right now as a way to just be able to let go of the week and anything that might be going on for us, and to allow us to be more present, as I said a moment ago, to listen to and to listen for that still small voice of wisdom within. So I do invite you to become comfortable. It is beneficial to sit in a chair and to sit with your back nice and straight, your legs uncrossed, letting your hands rest comfortably in your lap. You want to sit in such a way that your body is not uncomfortable, so that you can really focus on relaxing, allowing yourself to become more quiet and still. And the practice that we use is a simple one. It's a practice of mindfulness, and particularly being mindful of our breathing. It's not a forced or strained concentration, but a gentle and steady awareness, being present with the breath as we take it in, and being present with the breath as we let it go. With time and practice, we find that that simple, mindful practice does in fact help us to more quickly and easily find that peaceful center. So if you haven't already closed your eyes, go ahead and do so now. And let's join together in taking a nice, deep, and steady breath in, really being aware of the air filling your lungs. And as you let that breath go, notice the release of that breath and practice with it the feeling of letting go. Breathing in deeply again, aware of the breath, filling your lungs. And as you let that breath go, being aware of the release of the breath and practicing being present. Then again, a nice, deep, steady breath in, mindful of the air filling your lungs, and then releasing that breath, mindful of the exhalation, and practicing the feeling of opening up. So continue, aware of the in-breath, aware of the out-breath, noticing a sense of calmness and quiet beginning to come over you. Aware of the in-breath, aware of the out-breath, letting go, being present, and opening up. In a moment, you'll be blessed with beautiful sounds of our chanting. And as you hear those sounds, continue in the practice of mindful breathing, allowing the sounds of the chant just to wash over you, taking away any stress, any worry, any fear, any concern, all the while being present to the in-breath, the out-breath, letting go, being present, and opening up.
Look, I must start to get know samasta sukino mamantu lokaha samasta sukino mamantu lokaha samasta sukino mamantu lokaha sati shanti shanti shanti.
Continuing in our practice of mindfulness, take yet another very deep and mindful breath in. And as you let that breath go, really feel a sense of letting go and releasing anything that is worrisome or heavy or disappointing to you. Allowing yourself to become even more quiet and still. Feeling a sense of peace and a deep sense of calm. Reminding yourself that at least for this moment, right where you are in this practice, you are okay. Continuing to be aware of the breath, allow your attention to move to the area of the heart now, the center of your chest. As you imagine each mindful breath moving in and through the area of the heart. Each mindful breath moving in and through the area of the heart. You may or may not feel or experience the beat of the heart, and yet it is steady and ever present. Continuing to be aware of the breath with the attention focused in the area of the heart. For the next few moments, practice embodying an uplifting and healing quality. Perhaps it is faith, or love, or joy, or peace, or gratitude, or something else. But practice embodying that quality as if every breath in is a breathing in of that, and as if every breath out is a release and a blessing of that. Bringing the heart into a state of coherence. Attention on the breath. Focus in the area of the heart. Breathing in and embodying that healing, uplifting quality in the silence now for the next few minutes. And so it is. Amen. Take a moment, especially if you're with someone else right now, and give them the greeting, the salutation, Namaste. The divine in me recognizes the divine in you. Namaste. I love Janet Hammer's chanting and meditation music. It's a key part of our Sunday experience, and if you are a regular member of the Unity Center, you already know that. If you are joining us for the first time today or relatively new to the Unity Center, I really want to encourage you to check out Janet's CD. It includes all of her chants. It is called Om, and I think you'll enjoy it. The music that we've selected for you this morning are among some of my favorites and really fit and support the theme this morning beautifully. This is a song, I believe it was written by Bette Midler, performed by her, and performed frequently by Barbra Streisand. And the title of the song is At the Same Time. Man, listen to these words, especially now, given all we are seeing and experiencing in our country. And imagine, let's collectively imagine us living this song out and living from this beautiful vision.
At the same time.
So Shana and Janet and Soul Notes Band, I know if we were doing church as we always or used to do in this room, there would be a thunderous applause and a standing ovation. Thank you for a beautiful, beautiful song sung from the heart and soul. Oh, we got some work ahead of ourselves to manifest that, do we not? But we will get there. And that's what I want to talk to you about this morning. On the other side of the storm, recalibrating and staying the course. Say that softly to yourself. Recalibrating and staying the course. Recalibrating and staying the course. Whether it is the other side of the storm of COVID-19 or racial unrest in our country or anything else that is going on in our lives, any big change, we have to, from time to time, be sure to recalibrate and stay the course. Recalibrate and stay the course. So it was a very, very dark, black night. And the captain sees a light dead ahead on a collision course with his ship. So he sends a signal, change your course 10 degrees east. The light signals back, change your course 10 degrees west. The captain's rather angry and says, I'm a Navy captain, change your course, sir. The light signals back, I'm a seaman, second class, change your course, sir. By this time, the captain is absolutely furious. I'm a battleship, change your course. I'm a lighthouse, it's your call. Recalibrating. Recalibrating. We cannot be like that captain refusing to recognize the situations that we are in, whether we are talking about our individual personal lives that may be in a tremendous amount of change and upheaval right now, or the unrest and changes that we are seeing in our country today. We must not be like the captain refusing to change course. We need to pay attention. We are in a time right now where recalibrating is absolutely essential. I looked the word up yesterday, not because I don't know what recalibrate means, but I wanted to see the dictionary definition. And in many descriptions of the word recalibrate is the word or the synonym adjust. And adjusting as it relates to taking into account external factors. We are at that time in our lives now, in our world now, where we have to open our eyes very, very wide and take in all that is happening around us, even that which is hard to see, to take it in and to take into account what we are seeing and begin to assess it more accurately. Begin to listen to what needs to be heard, to see what needs to be seen, and then to step back and say, all right, I don't want to be on a collision course with that lighthouse. I need to recalibrate. And not just recalibrate. Once I know where and how I have to adjust, personally or collectively, I also have to be willing to stay the course. You know, in the world that we live in, especially the pre-COVID world, well, I think it's true even right now, we have, I think, experienced certain unrealistic expectations about how quickly things should move. And what I appreciate is that the kinds of changes that have long been overdue and needed in our country, and the kinds of changes that many of us need to make inwardly, don't happen like that. We have to be willing to do the deep inner work and external work, and to be willing to stay the course, which means that it's probably going to take some time. But the fact that it may take time and may not happen as quickly as we like must not ever keep us from continuing on step by step by step. Just this past week, my Braver Conversations Together team here at the Unity Center that has been involved in our anti-racism work for a number of years now, we led a webinar. It was a wonderful experience. We were able to share with our viewing audience a program that could be helpful in their organizations, in their faith communities, and so forth. But one of the points that we had brought up was this idea of staying the course, that this work does take time. And we were reminded that the Montgomery bus boycott lasted 382 days. That's a pretty long time, right? That the Greensboro sit-in took 6 months. That the Freedom Rides took 7. So it's like we've got to be willing to stay the course. Recalibrate, yes, and stay the course. So here are a few specific pointers and reminders that I'd like you to consider. The first is this: let us not become discouraged when we have to make adjustments, and let us not waste this storm. Let us not become discouraged when we have to make adjustments, and let us not waste this storm. Let us choose to see this storm as a time of rebirthing, as a time of reimagining, as a time of re-envisioning. Let us start in our conversations to lift the conversation up and give voice to what can be. Let us, as the beautiful lyrics of the song that we just listened to, inspire us to imagine that we are living, that there is one heartbeat, that we are all living out of this sense of oneness. Give voice to a new world, give voice to a new paradigm from the song at the same time. Yes, think what we've been given. Think what we've been given. Think what we've been given, yet think what we could lose. All of our life is in our trembling hands. It's time to overcome our fears and join to build a world that loves and understands. To overcome our fears and to build a world that loves and understands. To live deeply, we have to listen deeply, don't we? We have to listen deeply. We have to be willing to move beyond our preconceived ideas, our limitations, our biases that we may not have even realized that we had been holding. But we cannot become discouraged when we have to make those adjustments. Let us not waste this storm. Let it be a time of rebirth. From a little book I have had for years and have picked back up again just in support of this series. The little book is called The Quiet Mind, Wisdom Sayings from White Eagle. Writes, "It does not matter what your work is on the earth. What does matter is that you should do your work with all your heart and with all your strength and with all your mind. Pray also for wisdom that you may work in the right way, and for courage that you may not become faint-hearted on your path. Second pointer, let us stand together. We are so much stronger in community. Let us stand together. We are so much stronger in community. I used to have a little book of Aesop's fables. I must have it somewhere in my office or my library here at the center. But I remember I used to periodically pick that up and read these amazing stories, these fables, these ancient, somewhat ancient words of wisdom. And when I would read them, I would reflect on, wow, written at such a long time ago, yet so applicable today. And I'm reminded of one of Aesop's fable about an old man. He had 4 sons who were always arguing, always fighting. And it seemed that no matter what this old man could do in his lifetime to get his sons to cooperate and to work together, he was never really very successful at that. And as he is lying on his deathbed, he decides to try one last time, and so he calls his sons around his side. And he has asked in advance one of his servants to bundle together a bunch of sticks, but pretty strong sticks, to bundle them together and to tie them up. And the old man gives this tied up bundle of sticks to his oldest son and says, "Go ahead, break it." And the oldest son holds that bundle of sticks and tries to break it with all of his might, and he can't. And he says, "Give it to your brother and see if he can do it." And the brother tries, and he does the same thing. He can't. And it goes on until each of the sons has taken this bundle of sticks. And yet none of them can break this bundle of sticks apart. And the father says, "Give it back to me." And he unties the bundle, and he gives each of the sons a stick. And says, "Now try to break the sticks." And they're able to break them because they have stood in support of one another. And the point that the father makes to the son is, see, when you come together, you are so much stronger. You cannot be broken when you come together, when you stand united. This is a time that we need to stand united, that we need to stand together. In our spiritual teaching of New Thought, of unity, we deeply believe that we are one. At the very core, we are one. Third reminder here is to travel the path together, meaning to do the work together. This is work. Personal growth work is work, and it takes time. It takes calibrating and recalibrating and adjusting along the way. What I have come to really appreciate and really get is how different it is when we are willing to travel the path together, to do the work together. I remember when I first found Unity, I was a teenager. I was still in high school, actually. And I remember gobbling up all of the teachings and trying to understand and doing the best that I could to practice. And for probably the first, 5-7 years, I thought, boy, I've got this. I can do this all by myself. And it wasn't until I got older and was still working with some of these teachings that I realized, but wait a minute. There is a certain amount of growth I can do all by myself, but it is nowhere near the amount that I can accomplish if I am willing to travel the path together. One of the things that we are seeing in our country today now is the power of the unified voice. We may not all agree how to bring forth racial equity in the world, just like we may not all agree on how to bring forth a more sustainable planet. But what we're starting to hear or starting to recognize is the power of the collective in a way that we haven't seen for a while. Because when we all begin to say something's not right and something has to change, even if we don't clearly know exactly how to do it, or even if we're not all exactly on the same page, when we are identifying the same issues and raising our voices and traveling the path together and doing the work together, even though we may bumble and fall and sometimes it may not be a very pretty sight, we will eventually get there. And then if we dial it back a bit and we look at it in terms of our individual lives, and in terms of our individual long-term personal growth work. When we have a partner, a buddy, someone that can hold us spiritually accountable to the changes and the work and the practices we've said that we want to commit to, we will find the journey far more sustainable and the results far better. Jesus, our elder brother and teacher and way shower, before he began his teaching ministry, before he performed any of the miracles, he called together his team. A team. In the Bible, in the Gospels, it's not called a team. They're called the disciples, right? But he called together, in essence, what we would say today, a team. And they become, to put it in somewhat different terms also, a mastermind for him. They were not perfect. There were plenty of times that they messed up. But they did whatever they did together. And it was not until he had that team that he performed his first miracle. It's the idea of let us travel the path together, let us do the work together. And then you may also recall toward the end that he sent them out to take his message and his teachings and his ideas much further than he could alone. But he didn't send them out singly. He sent them out by twos. Travel the path together. Do the work together. A fourth pointer, let us be a light for each other. Let us be a light for each other. And the truth of that is that we may not always know immediately, we may not even ever know, the impact that our commitment to be a light as often as we possibly can, no matter where we are, we may not know the difference it makes. But I promise you it does make a difference. I want to read to you a story, a true story, about the power of light that sometimes isn't even recognized by the one being willing to shine it. The minister of a small coastal church in Scotland watched the rain lash against the window. The voice that spoke inside him sounded unreasonable. Why go out tonight? There won't be a soul out there, not in a dark, rainy, dismal night like this. It was one of the stormiest nights of the winter. Yet the voice told him, go out nonetheless. Somewhere deep inside him, he knew that he had to follow that voice and step out into that blackness. You've had that happen, I'm sure. You've had a moment in your life where you were guided to do something that you knew you needed to follow, and you did it, but you weren't quite sure why, at least not in the moment. So despite the darkness of the night, despite the weather, he put on his raincoat and, in this coastal town of Scotland, walked from his parsonage to the little church to conduct the Sunday evening service. He was pretty convinced that nobody else was going to come, and he opens up the little church and lights the lantern and puts it in the church window, and sure enough, the rain is hitting the windows, and it's dark, and the wind is blowing, and nobody comes. So he sings a hymn, he prays, he finishes, and when he finishes the service, an hour or so long, he takes his lantern and he heads back home. And he wonders to himself, was it a waste of time? But the next morning he learned it had not been a waste of time. The night before, when the storm was at its very worst, a fishing vessel had been trying to make the harbor. The skipper was floundering around in the blackness until he saw a small light in the window of a building high up on a hill. It was a lantern in the old church. Without that lantern, that ship would surely have been carried into the rocks. But thanks to the small, steady flickering of the light stream from that lantern, the skipper was able to bring his boat safely to harbor, safely to port. We don't always know the impact that the choices that we make to do the best that we can where we are to be as much of an instrument of love and kindness and peace as we can be, to shine our light even if we seem or think that nobody else is shining theirs, to speak the truth, to stand up for what is right. We will not always see the impact of and results of that, but it must never deter us from trying. It must never deter us from doing what in our spiritual core we know to be right, because it just might be that we are like that light in that lantern to that ship trying to find its way safe to harbor. The last point that I would make is the importance for us to also remember that we are enough, we have enough, and that we can do this. We are enough. We have enough. We can do this. Whatever it is that's going on in your life, maybe there's a big change going on in your family or in your work situation. Maybe you're just looking through the lens of our country today and you realize, boy, there's a lot going on. We do need to remember that we are enough, that we have enough, and that we can do this. We are enough, we have enough, we can do this. There was a story in the life of the famous virtuoso violinist Paganini. He was to give a solo one-man performance in a very small town in which he was absolutely revered. And the hall was absolutely packed, standing room only, even up in the balcony. And when Paganini got on stage to pick up his Stradivarius violin that was his prized possession, he would even string it himself. As he got ready to stand and to play, and there's an automatic thunderous ovation and round of applause. He hadn't even started yet. But as he picks up this violin, he realizes it's not his violin. It is a cheap replica. And he says to the audience, "Excuse me, but this is not my violin." And he goes backstage, and he sees the stage manager literally shaking. And he says to the stage manager, "This is not my violin." And the stage manager apologizes and says, "Just 2 hours before the performance, your violin was stolen. And we searched the town. We sent people out in a radius of a couple of miles to try to find your violin or a good one, and this is the best that we could find." Can you imagine what that would have felt like? To have had your instrument that was so perfectly tuned, that was your instrument to always practice with, to perform with, and be given just a ridiculous substitute. And so what is said of the story is that Paganini did not cancel the performance. It's reported that instead he took a deep breath, went back on stage, picked up the substitute violin, and said to the audience, "What I will do tonight is bear witness to each of you that the music is not in the violin, it is in the musician." The music is not in the violin, it is in the musician. The music is in us. The power is in us. We are the ones we've been waiting for. I know that sounds cliche, but it is true. It is true. And as I close, we have to be willing to step forward in faith. Each of us has something that we are being called to do, something that we are being called to be at this very important time, individually and collectively. We must step forward in faith. Do you remember the Indiana Jones movie? Do you remember The Last Crusade and the Invisible Bridge? It's one of my favorite scenes of all movies like that. And of course, Indiana Jones is trying to get the Holy Grail, and he's just on the other side of this massive cliff, this cavern, and he knows that it's on the other side. And there's this deep, deep, deep chasm that he's got to cross, but it's too wide for him. And he hears in his mind his father's voice saying, "You must believe. You must believe." And you look at him, and there's a somewhat awkward scene, but he's got his foot out as he's going, "Okay, somehow it's impossible to make this, but I'm going to take that leap of faith. I'm going to take that first step." And he does, and then the camera pans back out, and you see that the chasm was more an optical illusion, that there was a bridge there. The bridge wasn't invisible. It was there all along. He just couldn't see it because it was camouflaged with everything, the landscape below. And as that camera has panned back and he puts his foot down for that first time and feels that there's something there to support him, he has the confidence to keep moving forward. And if you really pay attention, that bridge is still pretty narrow, and he's got to walk it with some skill and some faith. I know with all my heart and soul that when we are called to do something significant, even if we can't see the entire bridge, that when we are willing to step out in faith, that there will be support somehow, some way, that rises up to meet us in the very moment we need it. Namaste. God bless you. We come now to the time in our service where I'd like to share with you just a few very quick reminders and announcements about what is going on. I would like to also encourage you, if you have never given to the Unity Center before, this would be the time in the service that we would be asking you or inviting you to prepare your gifts. Many of you are already on our recurring donation program, and that makes a world of difference to us to be able to continue to support you and our growing virtual audience, to put on programs that were wildly successful, like our Dismantling Racism program this last week, which we've given out freely to anybody who wants to use it. So your recurring gifts really help with that, regardless of the size of them. And we know that there are many of you who are tuning in and have not yet taken that step to consider supporting this program. I hope you'll take that step today. It's easy to make a recurring gift or a one-time gift. You can do it on our app. You can get our app for free wherever you get your apps. It's called the Unity Center. You can go online. It's easy. And for those of you who already do that, thank you. So just want to remind you that there is yet another program that we are supporting, being offered virtually to help raise racial awareness. The title of this program is similar to the one that we just finished, but it's not exactly the same. It's Dismantling Racism, One Insight at a Time. Dismantling Racism, One Insight at a Time. The teacher of this workshop, this webinar, is Peter Boland. It is an outgrowth of the work here at the Unity Center of our Braver Conversations Together team. It is being offered this Tuesday morning. You can register for it on the Unity Center Facebook page or website. We are going to be closing registration today by 3 o'clock. We are co-promoting and co-sponsoring this event with Oasis. So that is Dismantling Racism, One Insight at a Time, teacher and Professor Peter Boland. Many of you are asking, when are we going to reopen and hold services in person? And the very simple and honest answer is, we don't know. But as soon as it is safe to do so, we will. We will not reopen and have in-person services until it is safe to do so. So for now, we get to have church with no walls and no boundaries whatsoever. And we will continue that even after we reopen. I do ask you to look ahead and pay attention to the emails that we send you and the newsletters. I am going to be creating some new virtual programs and offerings, and so the best way to find out about that is on our website, on our app, or on Facebook. We do have a discussion group every Sunday that it follows shortly after the Sunday message. It is led by Mike Bugara and Leah Torreggiano from our community, outstanding facilitators, and the discussion group starts at 11:30. You do need to register, which you can do through Facebook. So those are all of the reminders I wanted to share with you. Let us take the gifts that we might be sharing for the first time this morning, or holding in our minds the recurring gifts that we have sent in automatically, and bless these gifts. These gifts help this ministry, your spiritual community, to do the really good work that it does for so many people. We bless these gifts with this affirmation: divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen.
My victory, I gotta be
Thank you, Shana Pugh, and thank you, Sonos Band. All right, let's pray out together. If you know the words to our prayer of protection, wherever you are, join in, please. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, wherever we go, God is, and all is well. And together we say, Amen. Namaste. See you next week.